Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Metropolitan. We like Hurricane Bob and Michaela.
There's something newsworthy this week that overshadows some of these more mundane events around the world. But anyway, this morning we're announcing a significant new product line that will result in the first commercially available high-speed data transmission network in a major metropolitan area. This new technology will provide dramatic improvements in high-speed data transmission to the financial community, the oil and gas industry, engineering firms, and most significantly, the medical and research community. In other words, a network of computer networks. Here with me this morning are a few of the individuals, Stan Hanks, Guy Holmes, and Stan Barber, who worked with MFS in developing this technology, and later will provide you with details on how the MFS technology can be used in various fields. But first, let me tell you about the new services and the impacts that we believe they will have. Simply stated, MFS is introducing today a technologically innovative product line of local area network and high-speed computer connectivity services that allows businesses throughout a metropolitan area to transmit data between LANs, workstations, mainframes, and supercomputers at speeds up to 100 megabits per second. We have, in essence, created the first seamless, user-friendly transmission superhighway. In response to customer demand, we are first introducing this LAN interconnection and high-speed product line in our Houston, Texas network. The Houston area has 11 supercomputer sites and is a major center for high-capacity data applications with its concentration of high-technology facilities and medical research facilities. In the near future, we will introduce the entire line of products in our other MFS cities, including here in New York City. In effect, we view today's achievement as the first step in creating a nationwide network of superhighways for high-speed data transmission. In recent years, as we all know, the usage of PC-based networks and workstations has grown dramatically. In nearly all fields of endeavor, companies have found that distributed computing power is the most effective use of technology. A bottleneck arises, however, when one tries to interconnect LANs or link workstations to mainframes or supercomputers in a metropolitan area or wide area environment. The fact is that many large organizations have multiple locations that need to share data. LANs and workstations are primarily creatures of a campus or intra-building environment, transmitting data between themselves at speeds between 4 and 100 megabits per second. But currently available network technology allows data to be transmitted throughout the metropolitan area over phone lines at speeds of 56 kilobits per second, which is less than 2% of even the slowest LAN speed, the 4 megabit token ring. One alternative is for a company to build their own private network out of leased T1 lines and the procurement of expensive bridging and routing equipment. This would produce an interconnection speed of 1.5 megabits per second, which still is only 40% of the slowest LAN speed. As you can see, the public network has definitely been a bottleneck to productivity. There are some bright spots on the horizon, however. New technologies such as SONIC and SMDS, switched multi-megabit data services, have made users anxiously anticipate the day when transmission speeds can match their LAN speeds in a metropolitan area or wide area environment. Yet those technologies are not available today and won't be available on a standardized commercial basis for several years.
But the MFS high-speed network is here today. It is the first commercially available network available in a major metropolitan area built on the FDDI, or Fiber Distributed Data Interface standard, for transmitting data at speeds up to 100 megabits per second. It is cost-effective, secure, reliable, and it's here today. And most important, it's very, very user-friendly. Let me give you a few examples of what this service will mean to data-intensive operations in Houston, Texas. A researcher at a leading medical institution is working to find a way to counteract the deadly effects of the AIDS virus. Working at her electron microscope in her powerful computer workstation, she studies the protein makeup of the virus cell wall. If she can determine its chemical structure, she can possibly find a way to destroy it. But she needs to link into a supercomputer to run her complex structural models. To do that over the public phone system would take days. So she loads data tapes into her car, drives to the regional supercomputing center, runs her job, and drives back to her office. If she forgets something or wants to change something, her automobile is her data transmission vehicle. Using a high-speed data network, she can do more research in less time and therefore be more productive. The North Houston suburb of the Woodlands contains a state-of-the-art medical imaging facility. It is a considerable distance from metropolitan medical centers because the complex is built around a giant magnet, one of the most powerful in the world, which is necessary for complex scanning equipment. When a doctor sends his patients there for a procedure, it is a serious case requiring diagnoses beyond the normal CAT scan. Yet the doctor may not see the results of the scan for days unless he goes to the Woodlands, which means hours on the road away from other patients. With a high-speed data network, the doctor can be in the scanning process from his office online and in real time. There is an expedited diagnosis for a patient in serious condition and minimal inconvenience to the doctor. Energy production research centers in Houston are often located in separate buildings throughout the metropolitan area. Yet many projects are in process that require collaboration between engineers. Today, data is shared over expensive leased lines, often transmitted overnight in batches. How much more productive could these engineers and scientists be if they could share data during working hours, online and in real time? The MFS high-speed data network will allow them to do that at far less expense. In a few moments, I'll introduce you to Stan Haynes, who will give you more detail about these potential applications that users have planned for the MFS network. What's important to realize is that MFS is applying state-of-the-art technology today to provide high-speed data transmission services. This is our first high-speed network. It links major business, financial, medical, government, and academic centers throughout the Houston metropolitan area. It allows these high-speed data users the same commercially available, user-friendly network solutions that have long been available only for voice and low-speed data applications. We have a full line of Metro Fiber multi-megabit data services products for every need, whether it be Ethernets, token rings, FDDI, even for supercomputers. In addition, we're introducing a fractional LAN interconnection product for slower speed applications that can also be used as a gateway to the emerging frame relay wide area networks. As mentioned previously, we plan to ultimately deploy this technologically innovative solution nationwide in all of our 11 current markets and their future markets, and we have planned for expansion. Today, MFS is using its fiber optic networks and applying advanced technology to provide a metropolitan area solution to LAN interconnection and high-speed connectivity. Now, let me introduce Stan Hanks, who will show you how the network solutions can be applied to a number of commercial applications. Stan is principal scientist of Technology Transfer Associates and is a well-known consultant specializing in high-performance distributed computing. Stan worked with us to design this innovative product line. Stan?
Thanks, Royce. Good morning. I'm going to talk about 5 specific applications that could benefit greatly from a very high-speed data transport network, such as the Metropolitan multi-megabit data services product offerings. First, we're going to talk about concurrent engineering. Concurrent engineering is basically the utilization of distributed engineering teams to solve a common problem. There are many reasons why you may need to do this. Some of them logistical, some of them financial, some of them having to do with the availability of people in multiple time zones to support development activities. One major computer manufacturer recently used a team of a set of 3 teams separated by 8 hours to basically get the effect of 3 work days per calendar day in bringing a new product to market very successfully. It maximizes the use of your staff, but it requires that you have a very high-speed data transmission network to support it. Either that or that you have very little data to move around. For example, you typically want to start off with a file server someplace that has the electronic renderings of the engineering drawings and specifications with which you're working. And then if you add an engineering team in the same physical proximity as that server, you can connect them up using traditional networking technologies, Ethernet, FDDI, token ring, whatever. When you add a second team that's remotely distributed from that site, in another building across town, in another building in another city perhaps, or a third team that's even further distributed, you have a very severe restriction in terms of your ability to get data back and forth from to those sites. For example, if you take an engineering drawing as something that fits on a 1280 by 1024 8-bit color screen and just transmit the image, over FDDI it takes a tenth of a second. Over Ethernet it takes about a second. Over 56 KB it takes over 3 minutes. So when you start moving big pictures around that are much larger than that, you start running into more significant difficulties. If you use anything slower than 56 KB, it takes roughly forever. So what you want to do is link these guys up with a very high-speed network. You can connect them all at 10 megabits or higher. You wind up with a situation where they appear to be local as far as the data is concerned. You can't tell that they're not in the same building, on the same floor with the rest of the engineering team. Between that and fax machines and telephony, they might as well be in the same building. Another example that I like to use a lot is computational science. It's an emerging field that includes things like computational fluid dynamics, computational chemistry, computational physics, computational biology. The common thread through this is that you use computing simulation as a substitute for physical experiments. As a result, you wind up with tasks that tend to be very highly compute intensive and that tend to involve very large quantities of data. The other thing that they have in common is it requires extensive capability to visualize this information, oftentimes in real time, wanting to do some sort of animation type activity. Today, to achieve this type of performance and avoid the possibility of delay, most scientists use high-performance desktop visualization workstations with local data storage. The problem with this is it seriously limits the size of a problem that you can consider. So many scientists have added in their local laboratories and in their departments multi-processor computers that provide a substantial degree of additional performance. You send the data from the local data storage to the multi-computer over a very high-speed local network, typically 100 megabit FDDI. And you bring the results back for visualization. Works quite well as long as it's in a very close physical proximity. But to solve really big problems, you need supercomputers. Most people don't have supercomputers, but have to use remote supercomputing resources. So therefore, you add one of these Department of Defense stealth supercomputers. It's really up there. You can make out the alphabet. But, So if you can add a very high capacity networking link to a supercomputer, you can transfer the data over, you can do the visualization, and you can transfer it back. The typical imaging that these guys do for visualization, they use a 1280 by 1024 by 24-bit visualization system. That's about a 4 megabyte per screen worth of data. Over FDDI, that's like a third of a second, which means you can almost do animation. Over Ethernet, it's 3 seconds. Over T1, it's 20 seconds. And over 56 kb, it's almost 10 minutes. So you obviously don't want to sit and wait for your image to come back. You want to have things happen now. You want your productivity to be high. You want to maximize your use of both your time and your computational resources. Another example is telemedicine. Royce briefly alluded to the problems that you run into with medical imaging. I'm going to use magnetic resonance as a good example. To do magnetic resonance imaging, it takes an enormous magnet, and the environmental constraints on these things can be staggering. For example, a 7 Gauss magnet will probably have a radius of around 200 meters that you can't put other electrical equipment around it in 3 dimensions. So if you put this in the middle of your hospital, you wind up wasting an enormous volume of space that you can't put anything else in. They typically like to locate these things distant from anything else. The problem with that is that there's a huge amount of data that these things generate per imaging session. So what we might want to do is build an environment where we've got a remote imaging center to put the magnet distant from anything that's going to cause problems. To have a computing center for reconstruction of imaging, interpretation, and diagnosis back at a hospital where you've got radiologists and people that are in the business of doing this kind of thing. In a situation like this, you take the data from the imaging center, bring it back over the high-speed network for reconstruction. It would be reconstructed and visualized locally, again on a local network, and then perhaps the processed image transferred to another remote facility where another doctor could use that with patient diagnosis as well. Now, when you start thinking about the volumes of data being shipped around here, 1 billion bytes of data is not a lot for a magnetic resonance image. If you start shipping that around even at FDDI speed, that's 10 seconds. If you try to ship it around on 56 kb, it's over 5 hours. It makes a terrific difference in terms of how much work you can actually do at any given day. Another extremely high capacity utilization, exploration geophysics. When you get into doing 3D seismic surveys, you're talking 3.5 to 7 gigabytes per survey of information. It represents a volume of the Earth's core that's typically, the surface, roughly 1 square mile and roughly a mile deep. You typically want to process this data at the same time to gain continuity and an understanding of the mechanics of what's going on in the geological structures so that you can better find oil. The problem in doing this is that you really need to push an amazing amount of information around. Most people believe that you need to be able to sustain 2 megabytes per second per workstation in order to effectively use computer-aided exploration tools. Today, we have situations where people use high-capacity disk farms to store all of the data in a central location, because another key issue is that control of the information is very important. Most oil companies believe that a given survey may make up to $300 million difference on the bottom line of the company, depending on whether or not they find anything. So you send the raw data from the high-capacity data center to a geophysical exploration station, which is, again, a very high-capacity desktop computer that people are using that probably has some additional local storage to cache some of the files to make up for the fact that you really can't transmit this stuff as fast as you'd like to. And then you add another one of these stealth supercomputers over here as another option. To process data even faster, you can send the raw data to the supercomputer. Then you can bring back the results for visualization at the workstation. But that's not good enough, because you need to save this information for a long time too, so you want to bring the data back for long-term storage as well, doubling the capacity of that link between the supercomputer and the high-performance disk farm. Consequently, you need extremely high-capacity networking in order to be able to do that. Remember the figures that I gave for gigabytes of storage.
And Derek's mother, an unstable condition, as that
And the people who do have service have people in exploration activities. They have to wait an awfully long time. Oftentimes they have to
apply to where the computing devices in order to be able to make best use of the resource, or to use batch processing techniques. They mail tapes off and get results back. If they're wrong, they've got another week delay on getting any kind of results. Extremely costly. Another possibility for this is information services. We're finding that the online service industry is something which is increasing in magnitude even as we speak. Just the provision of online information services, such as, for example, CompuServe, as a repository for software and as an opportunity to gain real-time online support where you have a consulting engineer that's available to help you debug your problem without actually having to come to your facility. For services such as this, an information provider can have a high-capacity system with links off to other information resources. With a high-performance network linking up customer networks, regardless of whether these are made up of engineering and scientific workstations, whether they're made of PCs, Macintoshes, or whatever. Being able to run at network speed across that link effectively means that you can treat the remote information server as a local file server, use it in a very effective manner for providing support and update for software, and for providing access of engineers, consulting engineers, associated with the information service to help you resolve your problems. For small businesses, this becomes an extremely cost-effective way to provide what would otherwise be very, very expensive support services. And finally, we've got the future. Who knows? I've listed some possibilities here that just sort of came to mind as things that you might possibly want to do, given that you could get any place you wanted to go as fast as you can get any place on your local network. Well, we just really don't know. Trying to guess how universal high-capacity networking is going to have its impact on business is like trying to guess how many Xerox copiers you can sell in an environment where all you've got is mimeograph machines. Trying to understand how people are going to use this high bandwidth to solve problems is like trying to understand how people thought that they'd use Ethernet in an environment where they thought 9.6 kV was a high-speed link. Trying to imagine how this transparent distributed computing is going to change the world is like trying to imagine how much more productive you could be if you didn't have to leave your office and go to the console and flip switches and use paper tape to make the computer happen. This is breakthrough technology. It's very exciting stuff that's going to be applied in new and exciting ways that we don't even understand. I'm very, very happy to be involved with this process, and basically I want to hand it back over to Royce. I get excited by these things.
Well, you can see that Stan is not very enthusiastic. Thanks, Stan. Very interesting. A select group of individuals and end-user organizations provided a lot of vision, feedback, and indeed guidance to us in developing the new MFS services, helping to guarantee that our technology would meet the needs of today's high-speed computing environment. Two of these people, Guy Holmes and Stan Barber, are here today and can provide you with insight on what these advances in high-speed connectivity mean to the business and research communities. Guy is Vice President of Network Development at Advanced Network and Services, Inc., a major provider of internetworking services headquartered in Elmsford, New York, and indeed this is a company that operates the National Science Foundation network. Before joining ANS, he was a professor at Rice University in Houston. Guy also is founder of Sesquinet, the Texas regional network of the National Science Foundation. Guy?
Thank you very much, and good morning to you all. As Royce said, my involvement in the project stems from my 4-year involvement with the National Science Foundation Network, first at the regional level at Rice University and now at the national level at ANS. I got to know Scott late in 1990 when he was sharing some of the ideas that driven him and MFS, and I shared my ideas of the NSF net and why it was important for the nation. Following on that communication, he had lots of good ideas, and the more I've heard from him, the more I like them, and I'm here to support them. The NSF net brought about a major change in the research and education network in the country in 1988 and then 1989 with the establishment of the NSF net structure. The backbone to that network, which is funded directed by the National Science Foundation, as shown on this slide, is a T1 backbone supporting TCP/IP of the OSI protocols. It's been operational at fractional T1 since July 88 and full T1 since July 89, and is managed by ASIN now jointly with our partners Merit, IBM, and MCI. This is the first megabit national network in support of research and education in the world, and remains the world's best. Next slide, please. One example of the impact that it's had is the increase in the number of campuses attached to the NSF structure through the backbone and through the regional networks. This slide shows the number of IP network numbers as a function of time reachable through the NSF backbone, and it's a rough measure of the number of distinct campuses that you can reach through it. It doubles about once every year. And this doubling once every year has been going on for several years now, in fact. It shows no sign of abatement. An increasing number are from outside the United States. An increasing number are, I'd say around May of 90, we have basically connected all of the major research universities in the country. Now we're on colleges, hospitals, high schools in some cases, in industrial labs, both large and small. Next slide, please. Growing more rapidly yet than the connectivity has been the growth of traffic on the NSF backbone. This chart shows the number of packets per month carried over the backbone only. And if you were to add the packets per month carried internally within the regional fleet, much larger. This dwarfs again any similar network in the world. From May of 90 till May of 91, you had more than a tripling of traffic. So you have roughly a doubling in connectivity and a tripling in traffic per year. And this shows a healthy example of how a lot of technology transfer is going on between universities and the industrial research community. Along with that increase of traffic, of course, at an exponential rate is the threat of congestion. A very serious threat. But the next slide will show what's going on right now as we speak. The backbone is being expanded from T1 to T3. This is a huge investment by ANS and by the foundation. 16 sites around the country at a nationwide T3 lease line structure is a tremendous investment, tremendous quality of performance and quality. And it's going on now. Should be in place by the end of October of this year. Concurrent with this improvement in performance is increasing carrying of mixed pure research traffic and traffic in support of technology transfer and in industrial activity by the regionals associated with us. And this makes me very interested in the offerings of MFS today. The regionals and we particularly need a smooth, flexible diversity of infrastructure. Having to go from T1 to T3 in performance is very interesting. Over the long line, I think it's a choice of T1, T3 phone bills differ roughly by a factor of 10. And so one of the things that MFS is giving us today is a smooth diversity of speeds between the 1 megabit and 10 megabit and 100 megabit speeds that really makes options much more attractive for research sites in our cities. This will help the commercial sector that they serve primarily, and it's my earnest hope that they will also be serving the research and education community. And so their focus and our focus will be complementary, and I'm here to encourage it very much. The last slide that I have to show you is a nice example of our focus on research and education. The girl on the left is holding the amount of information you transmit in 1 second, 50 kilobits, which was high speed 10 years ago. And the boy on the right is staring up at we can transmit over over current T3 networks at the same second speed. And the suggestion that this has something to do with K-12 education as well as big science research as well as commerce and intended. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Guy. That last one was a very interesting slide. I think that really hits home as to what really can be done today, and really demonstrates, I think on the left, that's as good a demonstration of the bottleneck in internetworking as I've seen. Anyway, now let me introduce you to Stan Barber, Director of Networking and Systems Support for Baylor College of Medicine in Houston. Baylor is a part of the world-renowned Texas Medical Movement with 44 educational and research nonprofit institutions. It's the largest in the world. Stan also serves as chairman of the technical subcommittee for Sesquinet. Stan?
I'm not wearing this to draw sympathy. I decided I could still roller skate, and I was wrong. They told me not to make any humorous remarks, and I let them down. I'm sorry. Stan Hanks and Royce Holland earlier spoke about a couple of applications in medicine. And since that's what I do, I thought I'd comment on those and then tell you about a couple of things they did talk about. All of the scenarios that Royce painted in his comments actually directly come out of Baylor. He didn't say Baylor, but those are things that Baylor is into specifically. And with the advent of the MFS service offering, all of the things he talked about become practical. Previously, they just couldn't be done without having big piles of money to give to the phone company to motivate them to do it. Now, MFS says, here, we do it already for less money and more effectively. So we're very excited to have worked with them to try and develop this product. In addition, Stan talked specifically about computational science, and we have particular interest in computational biology at Baylor. Big computers are big computers. They take up a lot of space. If you've ever been to the Texas Medical Center, it's kind of like walking into living concrete. I guess New York City has those attributes as well. So you just don't have space to put a supercomputer everywhere you want one. So with the advent of the MFS product offering, we'll be able to access not only supercomputers, but high-performance parallel computational resources that already exist in the Houston Metropolitan area. This is exciting, and it will make us able to advance medical science just that way, which means you guys, when you get sick, will be able to help you get well, hopefully more quickly and for less money. There are a couple of things that I want to talk about in particular that have not been mentioned, that are really kind of pie-in-the-sky kinds of things, but will be practical now because the infrastructure will exist to support them. Without this product offering, we just wouldn't be able to do these things. And again, you have to have the base infrastructure of high-performance networking, or you can't build upon it the applications that will service the community that you're trying to target. One of these is multimedia. Some of you are probably familiar with the efforts at MIT and the Media Lab. Multimedia as applied to medicine, medical research, delivery of medical services really involves about 3 or 4 different things, and I want to touch upon a few of them. Imagine if you are a medical student and you want to be a surgeon, and Michael DeBakey back at Baylor is about to perform some kind of procedure, and you want to see it, but you can't get to the theater, to the surgery theater to watch it. Well, through the use of multimedia, you can not only see the video of DeBakey doing the work, but you can see text and graphics describing the procedure all at the same time on the same display. And with the availability of high-performance networking, that becomes practical. Previously, you'd have to have some kind of video network and some kind of computer network and all kinds of stuff to make those kinds of things work, and it would be really expensive. With the high-performance infrastructure and the appropriate hardware on each end, you'll be able to do that in a more practical way. Multimedia can also be applied to the delivery of health services. Stan specifically talked about the MRI scenario where you have this big magnet, you send the patient out there and get their workup done, and then the data can be analyzed and displayed interactively. Well, imagine the capabilities you would have if you had the ability to do that throughout, say, a hospital district in a large county like Harris County, where Houston's located. You could walk into your local healthcare facility, the Harris County Hospital District, one of their hospitals, or wherever it is you would go, and you'd be able to pull up this data and look at it. Records, graphs, x-rays, everything from a single workstation without having to worry about where the data was located or any of those kinds of things. You wouldn't have to replicate the data, you wouldn't have to wait for the records department to hunt it down and hallways and hallways full of files. It would just make the delivery of medical services so much more effective because the amount of time you spend is doing the record keeping. Now, I said earlier, this is pie-in-the-sky stuff, but it becomes more practical because they have an infrastructure they can actually move the data around. Another application of multimedia, which is real exciting for us at Baylor because it could have radical implications in how social services is delivered, is something that has been tentatively called the Social Services Workstation. Social services right now are delivered piecemeal. You go over here to get your food stamps, you stop by here to get your public health, you go over to a different place to get welfare. Imagine, if you will, if you were in need of this stuff, you could go to one place and get it all. One-stop shopping system. Well, one way to do that is to have, again, metropolitan network environment, hooking up all of the social services agencies in an area. United Way, the city, the county, the state, the federal government. And all of those things linked together in such a fashion that you could go to a storefront, you're pregnant, you're in a drug family, whatever the case may be, and you can get help just by going to this one place. The social worker can pull up information about clinics or information about past encounters or whatever the case may be at that one location and help you right there on the spot. Now, the implications of that are tremendous, and in fact, Baylor is working towards trying to design a prototype of this environment. We hope to be working with MFS to deploy that in Houston. We'll see if it happens. It's still kind of pie in the sky, but we're really enthusiastic about it. The bottom line is, without this product offering, it wouldn't be possible. And so, needless to say, I joined the other stand, a lot of people confused me, in being very enthusiastic about this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stan. Those were some very, very interesting applications. Well, that's our news. MFS launches the first commercially available FDDI network in a major metropolitan area. Elting Morrison wrote in 1966 that the computer is no better than its program. Well, the supercomputers of today make that computer a quarter of a century ago look like a Model T. And indeed, with the trend toward distributed processing, I think now we can paraphrase Elting Morrison and say that the computer is no better than its internet work. Whether it's bringing a cure for AIDS, assisting in the growth of medicine, providing high-speed processing of financial transactions, or creating new ways to improve business productivity, this network does indeed meet an incredible need. It's reliable, being based on fiber with totally diverse routing. It's secure, and every circuit is monitored 24 hours a day, 365 days a year by MFS, and it's here today. A couple of more people I would like to introduce before we entertain questions. And as I say, in particular, I want to thank Stan Hanks, Guy Holmes, and Stan Barber for all of the tremendous contributions they have made to us. I think we had a very good perspective in that Guy is involved with the wide area applications. Stan is involved with the end user applications, so we got a lot of input on both ends. We have some other distinguished guests today that I want to introduce that likewise provided us with important technical input and user input, both on the wide area applications and at the customer end. First, I'd like to introduce Russ Ray from Willtail. If you can stand up, Russ, let everybody see. If we have any questions about frame relay, Willtail is really a pioneer in the introduction of that particular product in wide area applications, and they helped us to understand a lot of the interface requirements between our product offering and how that might fit wide area applications. Two other gentlemen that are with us today, Russ Gates and Bill McQuistion of Arthur Anderson. Russ and Bill, if y'all wouldn't mind standing up. They are very, very knowledgeable about a very broad range of the user community, and they provided us with some very valuable input on developing this product line as well. And last but certainly not least, I think somebody that a lot of you already know, Scott Yeager. Scott, if you can stand up. Scott is our city director in Houston. He has been very involved with the voice and data community both down there for several years, and he has been absolutely instrumental in developing this product line and ensuring that we didn't fall into the trap of developing a product line that fit our particular engineering technology today and then go try to sell it to the user community. Scott made sure that we actually found out what the user community is doing, which is really a LAN type technology. Take that data type technology and go apply it and come up with something the customer wants. This was really a customer-driven solution. So I'm very grateful to all of you that helped us in this project. I think it's been tremendously interesting. And I guess now we're ready for some questions. Who wants to be first? Anybody? Yes, sir.
I'm curious, how do you, what's the rate structure? How do you charge for the services?
Okay. We will initially be charging on a flat rate basis per month. We are in the process now of developing a usage-sensitive billing structure. We'll probably be introducing that sometime next year. Stan, do you want to comment on that a little bit? I know you're heavily involved in that aspect of it.
Due to the way the network is architected, it's pretty easy to count the amount of data that any given user is injecting into it. And we're even collecting that data today. It's just a question of making sure that we follow reasonable procedures, standard accounting methodologies to generate bills that can in fact be verified to be correct. We've got the byte counts, it's just a question of turning that into a bill.
Yes, ma'am.
Whose equipment are you using for switching technology?
We have performed extensive testing and development with 4 vendors. We anticipate a multiple vendor solution as we deploy this technology throughout all of our markets. The 4 vendors that we have performed extensive testing and development with are Fibercom, Network Systems, Timeflex, and Cisco. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Back to the question of the cost, can you give me a sense of how much this costs compared to T3, T1?
In terms of the way that we are going to price it, the LAN interconnection products, those connecting token rings and Ethernet, will be priced at considerably less than a T3. And the customer will not have to provide any hardware either. We will not have that big upfront investment. Our products, we're typically pricing them between $500 and $1,600 a month would be the range for the fractional LAN connectivity offering up through the full native LAN speed of 4, 10, and 16 megabits per second. The actual pricing will vary by the term of the contract, by the location of the facility, the distance between facilities, number of facilities, as well as the capacity, depending on the type of the circuit. The higher speed applications, such as channel extensions and right up to pure FDDI applications, are more of a special type pricing where we have to look at the specific application on those, so it's a little hard to give a ballpark. Those will vary depending on the amount of usage that the customer is looking at putting on the network. Any other questions?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
How soon is it, will it be available?
It is available today in Houston. We have circuits on the line in Houston, and we anticipate over the next 6 to 12 months to roll that product out to our other 11 cities.
Can you give me a sense of which cities and which order and when?
We are currently looking at the market demand for that. I think now that we have had the product announcement, it will make it far easier to go out and gather that kind of market intelligence than perhaps it was while we were developing this and not making it public. We have a couple of cities in mind, but I'd prefer not to disclose those until we firm that up. But it will be market driven, and I think anyone could sit and look at our group of 11 cities and figure out where a lot of the real high technology applications are. Those would be places that we would be bringing service next.
Royce isn't able to understand, but is there a distance limit on your, how far can you extend your distance?
That is a good one for Stan.
That's one of those really interesting issues. There's not a standard for FDDI on single mode fiber. But the telephony guys have been doing single shots without repeaters of up to 50 miles for a long time. The other thing is in the FDDI specification, there's a timing delay that you cannot exceed from the time you inject the token into the ring until the time it comes back. When you read the standard, it says nominal case 1,000 workstations, each with the maximum permissible token delay, gives you a maximum of 100 kilometers for the ring. So one of the things we had to investigate very thoroughly is when you put the maximum number of stations down to say, a small number, 20 or so, and deploy collector sites to bring additional stations onto the ring. What we found happened is that the only thing that really matters is the token delay, and that you can increase the distance dramatically of the ring. As a matter of fact, we have tested this under load at 80 miles, and we've put the ring into wrap, and it still continues to work. So we put a fair amount of effort into that. The longest distance that we've tested so far between any two individual nodes is over 30 miles.
Just an interesting observation. Dick Tomlinson, who asked that question, he and Connecticut Research Report have, I think, are in the process of completing a very extensive land user survey, and he shared some of that information with me the other day that he didn't mind disclosing. It was very interesting in that their survey of users indicated that between now and 1995, that the need for interconnecting LANs at ultra high-speed applications, and that's a Cohen-I term, not Dick's, but that's in excess of 45 megabits, something that's faster than a DS3, that the need for internetworking, the internetwork links, will increase by a factor of 9 over that period. Looking at this survey, basically the order of magnitude of where we are today. There is a real trend toward higher speed applications, going from the 9.6 and 56K up to the DS 1.5 and above, and with quite a bit of dramatic growth in the higher, real high speed applications.
Royce, I'd like to add to that observation. One of the things that's important to understand is that right now, because no one can get very high speed connectivity, people are used to thinking in terms of computing across low speed. If you go off and you survey the literature, you find that there are a number of fairly detailed papers that talk about how we have to restructure the way we do computing to accommodate the fact that we can't get there as fast as we'd like. I submit that by being able to open up that bottleneck, that we don't know how fast the growth rate is going to be, and we should take Dick's numbers as a lower bound.
John?
Royce, what services are actually being used right now? Is it by fail and that's
Okay. We, the customers that we have on the network, we have 2 customers that are in service today, and we are providing an Ethernet connection using FDDI and using an Ethernet connection using time division multiplexing and dedicated circuit as well. And we're gearing up now to start offering a fractional Ethernet circuit. The customers that are using our service, and several that are that we're in negotiations with today, finalizing service orders. By and large, most of the customers that are using the service now are using it to gain a competitive edge, such that it helps them to be more efficient, and by and large they have not been wanting to disclose what they're doing or exactly what applications that they're using it for. We tried to present today a more general flavor of things we're doing, and I think between Stan Baylor, or Stan Barber, Guy Holmes, and Stan Hanks, they've given a pretty good indication, but we're not releasing customer names. If customers want to release their names and discuss specific applications, that would be up to them. Any more questions?
Royce, could you explain how security is maintained on what is basically a public network?
I'm going to let Stan take care of that one because he has done a lot of work. I know two of the real stumbling blocks in any shared data network are, number one, security of the transmissions, and number two, the ability to be very flexible in routing a lot of different protocols. Stan, you want to talk about your work in that area?
There was those two issues, plus a third, the assumption that eventually we need to be able to provide universal connectivity, that everything really needed to be able to talk to everything else. You start from that viewpoint and design to accommodate that, and then when you implement, you can accommodate whatever you need to accommodate on a day-to-day basis. Provided a terrific challenge in getting this network functional. And what we wound up doing is devising a new type of network device. It's not a bridge, it's not a router, it's not a gateway, it's an encapsulator. And for those of you who are fluent in the internet, there have been some recent standards for experimental protocols. RFC 1234 was a standard proposed by Novell for allowing encapsulation of Novell datagrams across a TCP/IP network, and RFC 1241 proposed another experimental protocol for providing encapsulation of special experimental protocols between computers on the internet. Taking that as a jumping off place, we devised an encapsulation protocol that provides an interface on the customer network that looks like a learning bridge. A packet arrives at that interface. The encapsulator makes a determination as to whether or not that needs to be forwarded. The determination is made in part on learning bridge technology. It's made in part on the basis of some filter information so that you can block certain types of packets. The entire datagram on the network, the data, the protocol, the MAC packet for the Ethernet or token ring or whatever, is picked up and treated as data for an encapsulation datagram that's inserted into the MFS network. The encapsulation header for this datagram describes where it gets delivered and some other security information. At that point, it is then put into an IP datagram and routed through an IP backbone network, which is built out of traditional off-the-shelf TCP/IP router technology. Upon its delivery at the destination, at the decapsulator, the encapsulation header is checked for security, to basically make sure that this packet arrived from someplace that it was permitted to arrive from, and to verify some other check conditions. And then the data portion of that encapsulation datagram, which is the MAC packet on the other side, is inserted back into the network on the other side. So it looks like a remote bridge, except for the fact that you have a diverse topology between the two halves. It can be routed through multiple paths in different locations across different networks to achieve delivery to its ultimate destination, meaning an incredibly flexible network. The other thing is it's protocol insensitive. It doesn't really matter what your protocol is, as long as you've built your network under the assumption that what you've got is a piece of virtual wire between these points. The other thing we did was devise the protocol to accommodate multi-point, so you don't have to treat each connection as a point-to-point. You have 3, 4, 7, 43, however many sites you want to link together, in the same way that you would link multiple Ethernet segments together with an Ethernet backbone, for example. This can be accommodated as well.
Thanks, Stan.
What does that do to net management?
Actually, absolutely nothing. It's from there. You've got two perspectives. One is customer network management. The customer, the entire path looks like wire. You can't tell that there's anything in between. It's all invisible to you. All you can see is the back. It goes into the data cloud here, comes out of the data cloud here. Transmission time took this long. Looks like that. Okay. Back on the MFS side, it's all IP datagrams. The only traffic in the MFS network are encapsulation packets, which are from valid encapsulators going to valid decapsulator addresses, or MFS network management traffic. So it becomes quite easy to manage the network.
Any other questions? Okay.
I would like to make one additional comment. We're proposing this as an open standard. We're wanting to have this adopted, if possible, as at least an experimental protocol on the internet. We want to make it publicly available. We're working on an implementer's document to ensure that anyone that wants to build a device that's compatible with this protocol is capable of doing that. We're not wanting to hold this as a closed piece of technology. In addition to solving the problem for MFS, we believe it solves a number of important problems in customer networks in terms of the complexity of managing an ever-growing number of protocols.
Royce, is this a parallel network or is this an integral part of your existing fiber network?
It is a parallel network to our existing fiber network, and we will be having a parallel FDDI network where we'll offer a shared network solution to customers. Along that line, one other comment I wanted to make too, in your press kits you have a description of the products. We are offering what we consider to be a very flexible and user-friendly line of products in that we have three basic services for someone desiring a LAN interconnection. For a low-capacity user, we have a fractional LAN interconnection that would be a lower cost. It would also be a gateway that could be used for a frame relay wide area environment. Then we also have a shared network solution using the FDDI technology that can be used for interconnection of Ethernets and token rings, and this would be for a customer with a lot more throughput requirements and needing native LAN connectivity. Then ultimately we have a dedicated Ethernet or token ring interconnection product for the customer that absolutely has to have full throughput on demand at all times. So we've made this a very wide range of product lines in order to accommodate most users and allow them to very seamlessly migrate from one service to another and to optimize their own price performance on the product as well. So we're very enthusiastic about that. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Do you have plans to move to FDDI 2 with the video and voice capabilities?
Because the architecture is transmission media insensitive, basically we ought to be able to move to FDDI 2. We ought to be able to move to Sonnet OC48. We could move to Ultra. It really doesn't matter. We're going to need, the one thing that you can take to the bank on this is that we're going to need more capacity in the backbone than we can give for FDDI. Initially, we can accommodate that by using multiple backbones and using multi-path routing to achieve the delivery throughput that we're looking for. But we're going to have to move up to additional higher capacity protocols as they become available. As we do that, there may be additional features that become available as part of those protocols. For example, some of the multimedia and guaranteed synchronous circuit capabilities that you get into with FDDI2.
Which we've seen that very much in our voice and low-speed data networks, where we started out deploying like equipment that could multiplex, put three DS3s on the 150 megabit pipe. Now in some places around the country we go up to 2.4 gigabits in terms of numerous DS3s, 24 DS3 in that situation.
I was just going to comment. The focus of this whole product offering is that customers want things like Ethernet, token ring. They later know they want FDDI. They need channel extension. That's what the customers want. How we deliver the technology is what we're in the business of doing. And so we try to focus on the customer's needs and take them out of the transmission business. That's what we do. And as the technology evolves, we're going to be able to wherever it makes sense. But in every case, it will be transparent to the user as we migrate to the higher speeds. And it also gives the user the assurance that he takes a lower speed fractional Ethernet today, and he needs, through his throughput, he now needs a full native LAN, and he knows 2 years from now, through that throughput, he'll need FDDI. He can keep migrating. And he's not constantly reinvesting in hardware technology.
Any other questions? Well, thank you all for joining us today. If you need to talk to anyone, we'll be around here for a while. And thank you very much. I think we have more coffee and rolls out